Can somebody confirm that you can hear me?
We can hear you.
Thank you. Sorry for being late. I had trouble finding my phone and you can't log in, verifying your existence with your phone. Any questions before we begin? Oh, get that out of there. I share my screen here. All right, today is February 4th, and we're supposed to be discussing and starting the unknown project. There we go. All right, the unknown project will be a lab project worth 75 points. In this project, you're going to be identifying a species of bacteria. And in reality, I'm going to send you a number which is going to represent a species. Let me show you the different species it could be. You do have access to these files, by the way. They're in the MicroLab2. So I'll send you a number and it will be one of these species over here. There's about 20 different species, maybe 24. There's about 11 or 12 gram positives from here, and then 11 or 12 gram negatives here. You won't know what species you have. You'll be given a number. Only I will know what species the number refers to. And you will then be running tests. They're up here to try and identify the different species. For example, actually, the first three tests I'm going to send to you. The next, the first three tests I'm going to send to you just to, the reason why I'm saying them is to reduce the contact between the students and myself. I've got 40 different students, and if you were to each run 5 or 6 tests to identify your bacteria species, that would be something like 200 emails, maybe 300 emails between the students and me, and that's just too much for one project. So I asked the people who are running this if I could give you guys the first 3 tests, and that will reduce the number of emails by 60. And so now that means that this project will have 140 different emails between you and I, which is still an awful lot, but it's better than 200 to 300 emails. And they said, fine. So I will send you the first 3 tests. I'm going to send you the gram stain, the gelatin hydrolysis test, and then the PR lactose test. And you will then get the results to those 3 tests. And let's say it's gram negative. So that reduces the number of species down to half. And then we're going to say it's gelatin negative. The reason why I'm doing the gelatin test is because this test takes a week to run. So I decided to do that one right away. And that will reduce it down to these species I've highlighted here. And then let's say it's PR lactose AG. That will reduce it down to 4 species. And then you guys will look at this and say, okay, I've got one of these 4 species here. What test do I run now to determine which uh, of these 4 species it is? You could run the 6.5% sodium chloride, but realize that's a variable. And you could run the urease test, but realize that's a variable. And a variable means the results could fit the positive, but they could fit the negative, meaning urease negative is these, and then urease positive are those, and the variable could fit either. So it's not a very good test to run. You could run the PR sucrose test, but then once again, if it's negative, then that would be good. You narrow it down to 1. But if it's positive, you haven't narrowed it down at all. And you could run the indole test, and that, if it's negative, narrows it down to 3. But if it's positive, you've narrowed it down to the species of interest. It's better to run the methyl red test, and that will narrow it down to 2 and 2. Okay. So the point is, you've got to determine all the future tests after the 3 I've done. And let's say you run the methyl red test, and it's positive. That narrows it down to 2. These 2 here. Whoops, that's the wrong one. Let me get that out of here. Oh, come on. Methyl red. So it's positive. And then you've narrowed it down to 2. And then you've got to do one more test to narrow it down between these 2. Do you see how you do this? Any questions about that? All right. Actually, I don't need to do that. I'll just close that down, not save it. Looking to where I have an open file here. Here it is. Unknown instructions. So you can read about the unknown project. It's a time-honored project that's part of most microbiology courses. Everything we do will be done virtually, meaning online. So I'm going to send you a number representing a species, and I'll send you the first 3 test results. And then after you get those test results, you have to send a test result. And this project should be done. What's the word? Sorry, I'm losing my train of thought here. The project should be used using dichotomous logic, where you run one test, get the results, which will be a yes or no, and then you run another test, meaning, let me show you down here. The gram-positive test, you find it's gram-negative, so it narrows it down to these species. You then run another test, which we won't going to do, but this is something you could do, is the catalase test, and it's catalase positive. It narrows it down to these 4 species. You run another test, the PR mannitol test. It narrows it down to these 3 species. You then run the PR glucose test. It narrows it down to these 2 species. And then you run the citrate test, and citrate positive, and narrows it down to this 1 species. Okay, so the point is you do dichotomous logic, and in a sense, I am doing it because I'm running 3 tests. You're going to start the gelatin positive test today, and that test will take 1 week to run. And then I will send you the results 1 week from today. And you're going to do the gram stain. You're going to be doing that test on Sunday, and you're just not going to get the results to it until I send it to you on Tuesday. And so you're not going to look at the slide right away. You're going to put it in your drawer, and then you'll look at it, the slide on Tuesday, and I'll get you the results. And then you're going to set up the PR lactose test on Monday, and you'll get the results um, on on Tuesday. And you can look up the different tests. Let me see where if I can show you that. Oops, that's the wrong one. Right here. You can look up the test, how the test runs by scrolling down to week 5 lab. And there's the unknown instructions that I'm reading from now. There's the unknown list that I showed you. I'll talk about the sample journal and the building the economist game plan in just a minute. The unknown notes I talk about in a few minutes too, the grading of this report. Then come down here, week 5 lab. This is for Thursday. And then week 5 lab unknown tests. These are the different tests you can run. And there's talking about the gram stain, how you run the gram stain, all the different steps you use to run the gram stain, what the results can be. You can get the shape of the cell. You'll see either a sphere, a cocci, rods, bacilli, or a spirilla, or something in between. Like I should send you a gram stain that's a coccobacillus. I won't send anything else. And then the results, purple cells or pink cells. The cell arrangement you might be able to get from the gram stain, but you might not. And in practice, it's difficult to determine the cell growth arrangement when you do the gram stain because the cells can clump together. And so a um, streptobacilli could look like a clump or a cluster, meaning they'll look staphylococci. And then when you're running the gram stain, you're using a fairly rough procedure to do the gram stain, and the streptobacilli can break apart, so you could see diplobacilli and cocci. And to do the gram stain, what you really need to do is to run the don't rely on the cellular growth arrangement or the gram stain. You need to run the cellular growth test, which is actually right here, cellular growth arrangement. And what you do here is you just put the cells and grow them in a liquid culture. Take the liquid culture to make a wet mount. You can add a dye to it to see it better. And then look at the cells in the wet mount to see the cellular growth arrangement. And I'll send you the results. And you do this test to get the cellular growth arrangement. Any question about any of that? All right. The point being is that you need to, oops, I didn't get that right. Shouldn't have shut that down. Oh, let's see if I can back up from this. Nope, I can't. Mhm. Hopefully I'm still logged in. Good, I'm still logged in. Gonna have to verify my existence. There we go. So the different tests you can run are here where you can look up the test and you do need to look up the test to see how long the test will take to run. Like I said, the gelatin hydrolysis test is the longest. It takes a week to run. The MR test takes the second longest. This takes 7 days to run. The MR test takes 5 days to run. So look up how long the test will be because you won't get the results for at least this amount of time here. And shut the mail down so I don't get that noise. Um, so you don't send me an email saying, "Where are my results?" Because I'll just send you back, how long does the test take to run? Look it up. You also need to look up the test to see what the results are. And in some of them, I have pictures, like the gram stain has pictures, in which case you can see what the results are supposed to look like. And then I'll send you the pictures of what they will look like. In the gelatin test, I don't have any pictures on it, but on some of them I do. Don't want to shut it down because I just did that and I don't want that. Any questions about how this project is running?
Can I ask what day you're sending us our numbers?
I told you, next Tuesday.
Okay.
Let me turn this down. This is really loud. Um, like I said, the gelatin test takes a week, so this is Tuesday, and so you're not going to get your results until Tuesday. You can look up how long the other tests take. Normally, when you run the gram stain, if you look at the slides right away, you could get the results right away. However, I stated that you're going to do the gram test on Sunday, and you won't be looking at the slide until Tuesday. And then the PR lactose test takes something like 17 to 24 hours. And so you're going to start that test on Monday. You won't get the results on Tuesday. And the reason why I'm doing that is because the this project should be using dichotomous logic, where you ask for a test, you wait through the results, it'll be yes or no, and then you ask for another test. So this test must be using dichotomous logic. If you do not use dichotomous logic, you will get a penalty in the grading. And you'll get a penalty for each test you request beyond one. All right, let me come back to the discussion of this project. You read about the rationale, the project format. Um, like I said, I'll send you a number. It represents a species. Use dichotomous logic. If you use shotgun logic, you'll get a steep penalty. That's just requesting a whole bunch of tests at once. Uh, and then write detailed notes of your activities for that day. Like today, you could write in your unknown notes that uh, you got your unknown number, which you haven't done yet, but you can write it up in the report, and then you streak it out for colony isolation 2 times to make sure you have a pure culture. Which in this case, it's going to be done online, so I'm just going to send you the number, which will be a pure culture, but you can pretend like you're doing it on in the class where you streak it out to make sure you get a pure culture, and and then set up your stock culture, and then run from your stock culture all of the tests. and write that in your unknown notes. I'll show you where that is in a minute. The project will be worth 75 points. You'll turn in a written report of this project. The report should be use 12-point font. Anything smaller, I have trouble reading it. Do not double space. And in your report, you write your daily description. So today, you're going to be starting the gelatin hydrolysis test. And you won't get the results until next Tuesday. And then your results, it'll be, say, you will discuss your gelatin results where the cells either made the gelatin liquid or came back where the gelatin was solid. And then that's your results. And then you give your conclusions. If the gelatin is liquid, the conclusion is the gelatin test is gelatin positive, gelatin gelatinase positive. And if it's a solid, then the conclusion is the gelatin test was negative. You should differentiate between a result, that's what you're seeing, and then the interpretation, and that's the conclusion. Uh, you should not omit any data to make your project look better. I can go look into your unknown notes pages to make sure in your report you omitted all the data. You can include drawings, photos, and tables. They're very helpful. They are not required, but they are helpful. I'll send you a photograph of your test results so you can just include that in your report. You can also find um, like a negative if yours is positive. You can send that in uh, your report. Drawing photos must be completely labeled where you got them from. You don't need to do it if I send it to you, although you could state photograph from Dr. Volpe if you wanted to, but I'll know that's one I sent you, so you don't need to label that. But every other photograph you have or table or drawings, you should state what web page you got it from underneath the drawing. Otherwise, it's plagiarism. Each report must begin with a date and a time. You can get that from your unknown notes page, meaning when you request a test, you can get the date. And then when I send you the results, you'll get the date and the time. It'll just be on your unknown notes page, meaning the system adds it. So in reality, you don't need to put the date and the time because I'll get the date. But in the lab, you had to have the time because you could come in different labs on the same day, like a morning lab and then an evening lab. Different instructors ran them, but you were allowed to do that. And so you had to put the time. Now you don't need to do the time because we're going to do it online, in which case everything will be just on a day. You don't need to add the step-by-step details for each test you run. You just need to say what test you ran. Like I know what steps you did to do the gram stain, so you just have to state, I ran the gram stain. Here are the results, and these are my interpretations, the conclusions. Um, You should put your thoughts and words in the report, and they should be your own thoughts and words. You may receive advice from other sources, like your instructor, other students, but you should put your word in your own words. You must put in your report a table outlining the process you use to identify your unknown organisms, such as a table, which could be a picture. You don't have to type it up in a table format. You could draw it up on a picture like this table here. The student initially got the gram stain, and here are the possible species. And then they did the catalase, and these are the possible species. They didn't then the pyramidal. So you must give a table outlining the steps you did to identify your unknown bacteria as Micrococcus varians right here. You must also, at the end of your project or near the end of your project, give a paragraph discussing the species you've identified for your unknown bacteria. So in this case, you must give at least one paragraph. You could give more than one. Don't give more than a half a page discussing Micrococcus varians, including a description of the organ, the diseases it causes, modes of transmission, common places where it's found, treatments, any other interesting information you can find about it. Like I said, don't be more than a half a page. Can only be a paragraph or two in length. When I state, do not go over a page. If you do, you'll get a penalty. Um, and then the very last thing, you should give a literature citation page, which will give you um, any citations that you need. You should give at least one because you have to get your information about the microorganism paragraph. You need to get that from some valid source, so we should give that there. So you must have at least one citation. Obviously, if you have photographs that you've added that you got from the web, you'll have several um, citations. All right, do not use plagiarism in this report. It will be going through a plagiarism checker. So if you ever use two or three words from another source, including another student, put it in quotes and say where you got it from. And then it's not plagiarism. Plagiarism will get at least a 5% penalty. If you were to plagiarize the report egregiously, I'll give you 0 points on the 75 point project. The grading criteria, I'll use this grading criteria for determining uh, how many points you'll get on each topic. So you'll be largely graded on the logics of your test you performed, only a certain number of points. It's either 5 or 10 on getting the correct species. Um, you should be using dichotomous logic, otherwise you'll get a penalty on your grading. The completeness of the report, you'll be graded on that. Which tests were run? Why were they run? What were the possible conclusions? What were the results you gave? Tables and that would be helpful, but they're not required. Completeness and accuracy of the species description. Organization, clarity, and neatness, you'll be graded on that. You can read more about that. This right here goes through dichotomous logic, and you do not need to answer these questions, but if you want more information on using dichotomous logic, you can go through this section on dichotomous logic and answer the questions. You don't need to turn those questions in. Um, Let me see where I've got the grading rubric. I've got a grading rubric. Let me talk about that now. Your report will be graded on this grading rubric. Let me show you that. It'll be better coming from here. Utilization of resources. Did you use excess media or run irrelevant tests? Meaning if you request a test and you've already got all the results you can get from that test, then you have one test that you ran, which was either irrelevant or you use excess media, and you will get 8 out of 10. If there's no irrelevant test or excess media, you get 10 out of 10. Was dichotomous logic used in all your tests? Meaning was an excess test run? If no, then you get 10 out of 10. If there's one excess test run, you're going to get 7 out of 10. Two excess tests, 5 out of 10. You use a shotgun approach, it'll be 3 out of 10. No logic used at all in running your test, 0 out of 10. Raw relevant tests used. No tests were omitted, 10 out of 10. You needed to run one more test to get enough results to complete the project. You'll get 8 out of 10. Were the correct species I included at each step? So I didn't mention that, but after each test you run, you should state what species you have uh, in consideration when you run the test. And in a sense, we did discuss that. Let me go back to the unknown instructions. I showed you the table here. So after you ran the gram-positive test, you have these species under consideration. And then after the catalase test, you narrowed it down to these 4 species. As long as all the species are correct, after you give your discussion of the test results and the test conclusions, you then should state the species under consideration or give it in the table. And if all the species are correct, then you will get all species correct, 10 out of 10. One species is incorrect, you get 8 out of 10. 2 to 3 species incorrect, 6 out of 10. Over 5 incorrect species, or you don't list any species in your report, then you'll get over 5 incorrect or 2 out of 10. Completeness of report. If all information is presented, 10 out of 10. If there's one instance of missing information, 8 out of 10. 2 to 3 instances of missing information, 6 out of 10. Effective, clear information. Is the grammar, spelling, and punctuation good? Excellent. 15 out of 15. A few logics, very few, but logic is understood. 13 out of 15. Some logic, some errors, but logic is still understood. 11 out of 15. Some errors, but I can't make out your logic. Then it'll be 7 out of 15. Is species identified correctly? If you got the correct species, 10 out of 10. Within the same group, but the incorrect species, 7 out of 10. Outside the group, but the gram stain is still correct, 5 out of 10. The gram stain is incorrect, 0 out of 10. And then that'll be out of total 75 points. Any question there? All right. Any questions about this project? I think that's it, but let me see if there's anything else I need to talk about.
Can I clarify something?
Mhm.
For the notes, because you are starting the gelatin test today, should we record for this day today, the gelatin test will be run and we hope to see, XYZ. And then come Tuesday, that is when we record the results and everything.
You must record that the gelatin test started today. You don't actually have to record it now, but it must be in your unknown notes and in your unknown report that that test started on 2/4 because that's when I said it did, and I'll send you the results, which will say that this test started on February 4th.
Okay.
Okay? And
Yep.
where you do that, that's something I need to show you. I need to talk about your unknown notes page. Don't want that. Come on, get out of there. Come back to here. I need to talk about your unknown notes page. This is where you're going to record all of the information in your project. I don't actually have anything up here because there's nothing here. There's no student results. Like this student hasn't written anything in the unknown notes page. But I've got a link that says download the page, and you will have a link that says upload the page. And that's where it'll be. So it'll be here, and I've got a speed grader. You will have an upload page. It'll be there. Let me show you. Let me stop the share, and I'll go to a previous term to show you. Shut that down. Previous term. Let me go here. I need to get out of there. So I can show you some results. I gotta remove the student's grade if I'm going to show you the results. So, oh crud. Where is it? There it is. Dashboard.
I had a question.
Just a minute. I'm trying to show you something. And I have to hide it so you can't see the student's grade and week 5 lab. So there you can see, oops, that's on. Okay. There you can see the student's submission here. And this is showing the gram stain, the gelatin hydrolysis test, the PR lactose test, logical interpretations. And let me hide that. Any questions about the unknown notes page? And there's my comments down here. I'm not going to show you that because it has some discussion. Let me stop the share and I'll put the student's grade back. And I'm going to get out of this page. And now I'll share the screen. Okay, what was the question somebody had?
So the unknowns notes page, is that different from the journal that we're doing? Do we only upload like the first three tests into the
No,
journal?
the unknown notes page could be written very similar to your journal. And if you write your unknown notes pages very formal, you can just copy that information from your unknown notes pages and include it in the journal. But you don't have to write your unknown notes pages very formally, in which case you'll have different wording and that for your journal. The journal must be formal writing. The unknown notes page doesn't have to be formal. But if you do formal writing in your unknown notes page, like I said, you can just copy that information, and then that will be a detailed description for what tests you ran, what day you ran them, and what your results were, as well as your conclusions. And in your unknown notes page, I tell you what you should have in here. You should have the test when you started it, and that would be one day, and then the next test would, or next date will be when you got the results, because most tests you will not be getting the test on the day you request, and then the day you get the test results, and then you should have your conclusions there, and then the species under consideration, as well as any logic you decided that you have for why you're running that test. So anything you want to discuss, put it in your unknown notes pages. And that's the minimum. Okay. If you don't have any of that, you'll get a deduction on your unknown notes pages. The unknown note pages will be graded, but it'll be only the entire unknown notes for this entire project will be only worth 5 points, or essentially count as one lab graded. Okay. And make sure all of your comments are in your document that you submit in the unknown notes pages. I've got a speed grader here. You will have and a download all submissions. You'll have an upload submission. Okay, so do not use the comment section. I will use the comment section to send you the results. Oops. Why am I still here? I shouldn't be there. Okay. And
So just to clarify, we only add the first three tests into the notes, correct?
No, you're going to put all of your tests in the notes, and you will be requesting your test in the unknown notes pages. So only the first time will I send you the results by email. All other times, when you request a test, it should be on your unknown notes page, and then I'll send you the results in the comments to the unknown notes page. So only I will be using the comments. You guys should put any of your information in your document, which will show here. Okay. And you'll
Okay,
do
thank you.
that on the link there.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Any questions about the unknown notes page? Like I said, you will be giving detailed your notes on this project in your unknown notes page, but there'll be daily notes. Like today, you could write up, you got your unknown number. Actually, you're not going to get it for a week because I'm not going to send it until 1 week, and then it'll send all the information together. And then you're starting your gelatin hydrolysis test today. Okay. So in a sense, I'm sending you the unknown number, but I'm not going to do it today. But I could because you're starting the gelatin test today. Meaning in the lab, if you were to come into the lab, I'd give you your species, and then you would start running the gelatin hydrolysis test. Any question about that? All
Yeah, I
right.
have a question.
Uh-huh.
So today, hypothetically, you're just stating we're doing the gelatin test, so that would be in our unknown notes.
Uh-huh.
Monday, you would say hypothetically we're doing our lactose test,
PR lactose test, yes.
and then Tuesday we would get our unknown number, the results for the gelatin, the PR lactose test, and the gram stain,
Correct.
and then we would make notes for those three informations that you give us.
Yeah, you'll make notes on the results. You'll make notes on your conclusions. And then you might give your um, logic for what test you'd run. And you could, if you wanted to, on that same day, make your next test request. But
Okay,
you could
perfect.
do
Thank
that
you.
later too. I mean, it doesn't have to be on that day. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Any question about the unknown notes page? And then there's one more thing I need to talk about. And that is right there. The sample journal will be how your unknown report will look. This report was written by let's go over here because it'll show better. This was actually written by an instructor, and this is the identification of unknown number 6. So somebody sent him number 6 by who it's done and the term. And this person has a page here, so let me go ahead and correct that. That should not be a separate page. That should be on the first page. Oh, I didn't get that done. Why didn't that? There we go. All right. So he's got the date that he started it at, and they streaked 2SA plates and 2MB plates, incubated them 37 degrees C. On day 2, he looked at the plates and got the results here. He was given 2 species, which is what we do in the lab, but you guys will only get 1 species as a number. And then streaked it out, and then chose one of the colonies to streak it out again. And he gave the colony descriptions here, which I suppose I should do. I didn't ever send that to you guys. And then day 3, he gives the observations on the results of the something he streaked earlier than the TSA plates on an earlier day. And then gave his conclusions. What the heck is that? Oh, the activities he did. So he selected one colony from colony B plate, used these to inoculate 2 TSA slant cultures to make a stock culture, and then incubated those at 37 degrees. And there's the stock culture he did, and this is day 4, making the observation. One of them is a pigmented colony. And then he started the activities on this date. So that is showing you the observations on day 4. These are the activities he did. He ran the gram stain on day 4. And then the results of the gram stain, the cells stained purple and are spheres. And so what's the conclusion? There's the results right here. The conclusions, it appears to be gram-positive cocci. Okay. So on each date, you should, if you have the information, give the observations on that day, the activities you ran on that day, and the conclusions. If you don't make conclusions, you say either no conclusions or you can leave it blank. If there's no observations on that day, you just write no observations or you can leave it blank. And then the activities, if there's no activities you ran on that day, you said ran no activities on this day or leave it blank. Okay, but each page should have observations, activities, and then conclusions. Okay, so on today's date, if you do the unknown notes page, all you're going to have is no observations. The activities were you started the gelatin hydrolysis test, and then there's no conclusions yet. Okay. All right. And that's not terribly important in the unknown notes page because that's an informal part, but in the report, you should have that information. Okay. And then write your unknown report, something like this. Like on this day, he's actually running a test here. This is beta hemolysis. I can't see that very well, but if we blow it up, maybe I can see that. There's showing you a streak on blood agar plate, and there you can see beta hemolysis around that plate there. There's no blood around that, those cells there. And then he's got his information, which he doesn't need to do. This doesn't need to have it one place in the report, but he's doing it after some of the days where the gram stain is given the cell shape, the pigment, the catalase, and then the hemolysis, beta hemolysis. All right, any questions about that? Anyways, the sample journal you should look at before you start writing the unknown report, and it just tells you kind of how to write the unknown report. Realize this unknown report is written for a regular lab, and that's why he's got 2 species growing on the plate. You would only have 1 species if you were to actually come into the lab and do it, because I'm only going to send you 1 number. But we decided a long time ago to only start with 1 species when we're doing it all online. All right, any questions about that? Any questions about this project? If not, I'm done here. I will see you in the lecture. Bye.
Thank you.
All right, bye.